Hi everyone, this is Carrie with Distashify, and I'm here today to talk about reusing apparel scraps. This is a huge list, over 35 items, so let's get started. So number one, create yardage from scraps. So if you have, for instance, a bunch of t-shirt weight scraps, create yardage from it and then cut something out from it. The idea to create yardage from scraps is being used by a designer that goes by Zero Waste Daniel. His name is Daniel Silverstein, and he is a designer in New York City, and he gathers knit scraps from designers. He sews them up into t-shirts, sweatshirts, and I think other clothing items. Another thing that you could do is actually cut up your pattern to fit onto the scraps you have. Add seam allowances to the pattern where you cut it apart, and then cut out your items, your pattern pieces, and then resew them together. Next, use scrap-friendly patterns. There are a lot of these out right now. First of all is a baseball tee. It is by nature very scrap-friendly because you've got one color on the front, you could have the same color or a different color on the back, you've got different color sleeves and a matching collar band. But any raglan sleeve tee or top would work for the same reason, is it kind of looks intentional because people are used to seeing the different fabric on the sleeves. Also, there are several sweatshirt patterns out there that are meant for, that have quite pretty designs on them that could be used for this kind of thing. So I believe Sewaholic has one with kind of almost a heart shape here. I believe Sinclair Patterns has one. Also, there's the Style Arc Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X, that is a sweatshirt, which it's not a raglan sleeve, but it does have extra side panels, which would be great for scrap busting. Also, workout gear is perfect for scrap busting. Some patterns, especially J-Lee patterns, there's a lot of scrap busting potential there because they have a lot of style lines put in, a lot of panels put in specifically for color blocking. Also, other patterns would be great. So Liesel & Co. has a pencil skirt pattern called the Extra Sharp Skirt, and it has side panels you could use for scraps. Also, to use up scraps, you can think about the details in your pattern. So the cuffs, or even the inside of a cuff, under collars, or just right outside collars, button plackets that are sewn on, hem facings, waistband linings, all of those are prime material for scraps. I would just make sure that you have something that stands up to its use. For instance, if you have pockets and you're going to use those pockets a lot, don't use something too flimsy. Make sure that you use something that's going to stand up over time. I like to use cotton poly for pockets because it's thin, but that polyester will make it last a long time. Okay, another one is sleeveless tops. So there are a ton of different types of sleeveless tops. Of course, a camisole would be great. A tank top, just kind of a muscle t-shirt would be great. Any kind of a tee with a short grown-on sleeve. The Reynolds top from Helen's Closet. It has straps and then just a front and a back. And I'm actually going to use it to make a winter cover-up. I saw someone do it once. They made it out of wool and they just wore it in the winter over a t-shirt. I thought that was such a cute idea. It looked great. Other clothing items, which you don't necessarily have to use scraps for, are just very small patterns. Something like short shorts, skirts which aren't pieced. For instance, you can fit a pencil skirt for most sizes out of 1 yard. You could fit a straight skirt. You can even fit like a short A-line skirt out of 1 yard. You can make a shrug or bolero. You could make underwear, bra, sports bra would be excellent. You could make a dickie or a partial top. So if you've ever gone to the Veronica Beard website, they make blazers that have zippers inside, and you can buy these dickies that go underneath. So for instance, if you want the sweatshirt under a blazer look but don't want all that bulk, they actually have these hoods with the front made as a dickie, and then you just zip it into the blazer, it's a really cool look and very clever. And they sell these dickies for hundreds of dollars. It's incredible. So you can make it for a lot less. Most dickies are like collars that you could put under a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or some other kind of cover-up. Great for Zoom meetings, and we all probably still have those. Also a half tee. Sometimes people don't like to wear camisoles without a t-shirt underneath. There are these half tees that have elastic right around under the bust, and so it's not a full t-shirt. There's a business called Sleevey Wonders, and they just do the sleeves and then a very brief t-shirt. Again, it doesn't go very far below the bust. Let's see. Also removable collars. So some garments will have a removable collar, a collar that actually buttons on, or some, I'm seeing more and more lately, big lace collars that just tie on. You might wear over a sweater, for instance. Another idea is an apron. So it could be a cooking apron. It could be almost more of like a belt style that just goes around the hips. It's used more for carpentry or maybe in your sewing room. Helen's Closet has a few apron patterns. I think one of them is free. You can use scraps for making muslins or test garments. So for instance, if you're making a shirt, you could do half the front in one scrap, half the shirt in another scrap, the sleeve in a different scrap. And if the fabric is right for that type of garment, it actually might do a better job of being a mock-up than actual muslin fabric. Next, samples for a sample book. So when I was in 7th grade, I had a sewing class, and she had us do samples and then put them into a book. Hems and zippers and binding treatments, and do hand stitches, whatever decorative stitches come on your machine, buttonholes, pockets, styles, waistbands, collars, all sorts of things. You could also collect a book of different fabrics. For instance, you might have a book that has a sample of Dupioni and a sample of chenille and a sample of denim. Let's see, home decor. So there are a ton of home decor items you can make from apparel fabrics. Now I know most apparel sewists aren't that interested in sewing home decor, but this time of year when we're heading into the holidays, I am thinking about it more and more, although I'm not really into home dec. But I have been thinking about maybe making my own Christmas decorations or making Halloween items. For instance, I recently saw a YouTube video on making a pumpkin out of just scraps and batting. And it was really cute, and I realized that could double as a pincushion. So I think I might actually do that. You can also make pincushions in other shapes, for instance, the tomato, the strawberry, all sorts of different things. You could also make one to go on your wrist, and you could make one on a piece of elastic to go around the body of your sewing machine. But other home decor items might be a decorative pillow or pillow shams, chair pad covers, fabric trivet to put hot pans on, oven mitts, kitchen towels, or you could do a footrest puff. So Closet Core Patterns has a free pattern for that. You could also make wall art with your scraps. So for instance, if you have a really beautiful piece of silk, for instance, that you just don't want to get rid of, but you don't know what to do with it, frame it, put it on the wall. I recently saw a woman who was braiding fabrics and making wall hangings out of them. So that was really fun to see. Another thing you could do is create replacements for disposable items. So for instance, for paper towels, for menstrual pads, and even tampons, I saw a video on that, makeup rounds, paper towel replacements, even a toilet paper replacement. So I'd never seen that before, so that's very creative. And if you ran out of toilet paper during the pandemic, you might actually think that's something you want to go for. Another thing, you might actually want to try a quilt. So for many apparel sewists, we're not that maybe interested in quilts, but if you have a lot of cotton or linen, or even I'm tempted to make a quilt from wool, that might be a really great project. And in fact, I'm planning a quilt right now, and I'm going to use kind of large squares, just make something super simple. But I think that would be really fun. So back to sewing items, you can make pressing hams. If you have a piece of silk organza or thin cotton, you can make a pressing cloth. Another item would be hats. So a bucket hat, a sun hat, a hat for a child. There was even a tutorial I saw on taking a trucker hat and then covering up this part with a fabric that you like, so you don't have a logo right there. You can also make slippers and socks with apparel fabric. I believe Jaylee Patterns has a slipper pattern. You could also use or make a hair or neck scarf. So I have a silk blouse, which is beautiful, but it just doesn't fit the way I want it to fit. So I think I'm going to dismantle it and turn it into a scarf. Okay, you could also make a pillowcase for sleeping. So I had some silk charmeuse, which I bought, and I decided I just wasn't ever going to get around to making the French couture jacket that I was hoping to make. So I took some of that silk and made pillowcases for sleeping. And I gave a couple out as presents, and I kept one. Actually, no, I didn't. I need to make myself one. I still have some of that silk left. But I just put it in the washer and dryer. I am not precious with the silk. I know that lots of people say you can't wash silk. I just ignore them, and I put it in the washer, I put it in the dryer, and then I make something with it. And it makes it, it takes away some of the shine, which I like. It makes it look a little bit more rustic, but hey, I'm fine with that. I am not gonna baby any fabric. I even wash a lot of wool, and you'd be surprised how much wool, especially suiting wool that has a really nice smooth finish, comes out of the washer and dryer just fine. I have ruined, I hate to say ruin when it comes to washing wool, but I had one piece. It was a knit, like a jersey wool for a sweater, and it came out like this big after I was done. So I also had one piece of wool that when it was kind of a smooth suiting fabric, but when it came out it was pretty, it was no longer smooth. I don't think it changed much in size, but it was definitely pretty rough after I took it out of the wash. So proceed with caution. But I bet that I have successfully washed and dried more wool than unsuccessfully did it. So I still do it. Okay, so back to pillowcases for sleeping. You could make one out of silk or a poly satin. You could do like a cotton lawn if you have one that's really pretty that you want. Linen, even jersey, even something like a really fine microfiber if you don't get too hot at night, like a double brush poly. Those are all really soft and pretty. So another thing you could do is bags. So all sorts of bags. So backpacks, purses, totes, grocery bags, produce bags, makeup bags, all sorts of bags. Organizers. So a makeup brush organizer or a jewelry organizer, those would be really great. Bias tape. This is one that I do a lot. If I have a very thin fabric like a cotton lawn or a silk, I almost always just immediately cut it up for bias and then put it in a bag, and a clear plastic bag, and just wait until I need it. I will say, make sure you know what width you'll want in the future. So figure out what your favorite style of binding is and then use that width. Also lining. So for instance, if you're lining a blazer, it doesn't really matter what the color of the lining is. So if you have some leftover lining or something slippery, even like a really smooth mercerized cotton, you could do that for the sleeves. I mean, the sleeves don't even have to match. You could do one sleeve in one fabric, another sleeve in another fabric. Also skirts. So I recently lined a skirt and used two different fabrics for the front and back. So that was a really easy way and cheap way to get a really luxurious feeling lining. And there were two different scraps of silk that I had left. Applique. So let's say that you want to go to your your favorite team's football game, but you don't really feel like you like the spirit wear they have available. Just make your own. Just make your baseball tee or a sweatshirt and cut out some fabric, put on a really firm interfacing on the back. In fact, put on the interfacing first and then cut it out, and then just satin stitch it on to your shirt. Or I think you can use different products to fuse it on. I'm not an expert in those. I won't even pretend to know, but go to your craft store, your local hobby store, and they will have them there. Scrunchies. Scrunchies are back full force. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was definitely around when they were popular, and I was so happy when they came up with these hair ties that, yeah, apparently those aren't cool anymore. So hair bows, you could cover a hairband with fabric. Another idea is create babies or kids clothes or accessories. So you don't even need your own baby for this. There's tons of babies out there. So if you are just wanting to get rid of scraps and do something nice for someone else, maybe make them a present, look at your scraps, figure out what you can do with it, and give someone a happy day. Another thing is you could create a costume box for kids. So Style Arc recently released a costume pattern, but it's not for any specific costume. It's just for popular costume items, like a cape. In fact, I don't remember all the things that are in it, but there's quite a few patterns in there for different items that are popular across a variety of costumes, which I thought was so clever. Oh, you know what? Back to the applique. There's a shirt I have seen on Pinterest I think is so cute, and it just has a giant heart on it, and it's a nice looking kind of sweater type or knit top, but it just has this giant red heart. And I'm not generally up for kind of cutesy clothing, but I keep going back to that one, and she's wearing it with a pencil skirt, and I think it just looks so good. All right, next, stuffed toys. So Grainline has a squirrel stuffed toy pattern on their site. Obviously there's a ton of patterns out there. The Berta magazine often has kids kind of accessories in there that you could look at. Also, you could sell sets of similar scraps on a resale site. So this is, I know, popular for quilters, but we could do it too as home sewists. We could collect, for instance, scraps of linen that are similar weights or sizes and sell those as a bundle. Anything that's a yard or more that you are not going to use it, anything for it, we accept it at Destashify, so just contact us and we'll pay for shipping, and then we'll figure out what to do with it. Either sell it as is or create bundles from different things that we get into stock. Over the next year, I'll be taking this list and doing videos, deep dive videos on different categories. At that point, I'll go into a lot of detail about patterns that I find, about what kind of weights or types of fabrics would be good for those patterns, and I think we're going to have a really good time. And I'm hoping to get through my entire scrap buckets, and I have probably 3 big bins. So I'm super excited for that, and that's all for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.